Today we're going to be talking about automating inventory cycle counts and streamlining pick, pack, and ship processes for Sage 100 ERP. We're going to be talking about some real solutions here to solve some, save Sage 100 ERP customers a lot of time. First, I'd like to introduce Andy Tatayan at CertiPro Solutions. He's going to be talking about advanced inventory counts. Accounting Systems Consulting Group, Ron Chomp. At Scanco, we have Devin Ambro. He's the Director of Business Development. And Caroline Walsh with StarShip. And just a little bit about the companies. CertiPro Solutions, they have a automated inventory cycle count module that really saves a lot of time and makes regular inventory updates easy and efficient by automating your inventory cycle count process on a daily basis. ACS has been a long-standing, market-leading multi-bin solution for the Sage 100 ERP market. It's an advanced warehouse management software, and it's made especially for Sage 100 ERP. Scanco, long-standing OEM partner for Sage 100 ERP and Sage 500 ERP. They've been in business since 1989, and they're definitely one of the leading solution providers out there for Sage 100 ERP enhancements for warehouse management. And we have StarShip, market-leading shipping software, automating shipping for Sage 100 ERP. They have multiple integrations with multiple products, but they've been a long-standing gold development partner and OEM solution provider for Sage software for a number of years, 13+ years. And so today we're going to start it off with CertiPro Solutions. We're going to be talking about planning of inventory cycle counts and then generating those cycle counts with automatic email notifications. And then we're going to hand it off to Ron Chomp at ACS Consulting, or ASC Consulting Group. Scanco is going to talk about automated count, picking and packing, and then StarShip's going to follow up and end it with automated shipping. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Devin and the team get started talking about the process.
Hello everyone, this is Andy Tatayan from CertiPro Solutions. The first green 4 boxes are presenting the current pain that people are having nowadays when they are planning to do physical inventory. They first have to plan in preparation for that, so they have to stop the trucks coming in and containers going out and receiving and shut down the shipping. Then they have to do the searching, counting, and comparing. Then they have to analyze the data as a result of that and possibly shut down for a couple of days to do the physical inventory and process the data into the system. So now we will go to the demo on that and we'll show the result, all the automated inventory cycle count. So the yellow boxes are going to present. Ron, probably you can start on that one.
Oh, the pain in physical count, and thank you for coming today. The pain and physical count typically in a business is like Andy was saying, is you have to shut down for a weekend or more. And in Sage 100, typically what you'll do is you'll have to freeze your entire inventory and then count all your inventory. And often if you have inventory in different bin locations, the next step is to use an Excel spreadsheet, accumulate that data. Some businesses then we'll have to clean up some discrepancies either in the Excel spreadsheet and then import the data or key all that data in, and there too there might be discrepancies there. So the advantage here in multi-bin is we can turn that around by just doing cycle counts in certain sections of your warehouse, and you don't have to count all your inventory. You can just count parts of your warehouse.
And so the Scanco part of the process here, as you can see, we're noted in red. This this flowchart is intended to give everyone an overview of what the manual entry process would look like if each of these stages that our solutions were not involved in. So we've gone ahead and highlighted that for you so you can see easily which ones of them we're involved in. And there's a discontinuation there because part of the second half of the presentation, besides demonstrating physical counts and how Scanco can help with that, we've taken the shipping and the picking and packing process and we've turned that into another segment. And you can see there, after the order has been placed in the system, the paper pick ticket is printed and sent to the shipping department. Then the items are picked and packaged for shipment. These quantities are commonly written down on a piece of paper and written down to be given back to data entry personnel that are then entering in the sales order information into shipping data entry and then keying in all of those quantities manually, allowing for a large margin of error and a lot of headaches, especially if you're dealing with lot or serialized items. After that's completed, and we'll show you the process from the handheld, the receiving shipment is complete and then moves over to the parts of manual entry that you would have if you did not use StarShip.
Yeah, so on the StarShip side, what we're looking at on the shipping side, I should say, is when you're manually doing this without StarShip, you may be manually entering information into the carrier systems like UPS WorldShip or FedEx Ship Manager. You may actually have import functionality set up in those two solutions, but most likely do not have automated export going on. And on the LTL side, many times we find that customers are logging into the various LTL websites like Old Dominion or MyYRC, entering the shipment information there, and then doing a rate shop. So from there, once they figure out and look at all of the options, they may compare the cost, they may have to look at the delivery times, and make a decision on which carrier and service to go with. As soon as they decide that, they would have to go into the appropriate solution, maybe UPS WorldShip in this case, to process the shipment. The WorldShip machine would then generate the barcoded shipping labels as it normally does, and they may also be attaching then an audit label to that pick ticket so that it could be sent to the front office for manual entry of tracking information, calculation of freight charge, and eventually getting it to a state where you can send the invoice out to the customer. I think that pretty much concludes that part of on the shipping side.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go ahead and move to Andy. Andy, you should have controls now. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to see a live demo of our automated inventory cycle count. Our automated inventory cycle count is part of the advanced distribution suite, which is sold separately as well. We also offer automated inventory cycle count for Sage 500 customers. I want to start with the question before I jump into the demo. Why do we develop this enhancement? We all know at the end of the year end, we kind of highlighted that already. It's very time consuming to prepare the physical inventory. You have to close your warehouse, stop shipping, receiving. This is a problem that the most companies are facing. So first, it takes a long time to complete your physical count. Second, if there is any discrepancy, it's already too late. You found the item that was sitting in your warehouse. Now you found that item, it's already too late. You lost the sales, lost your revenue. So with this solution, we suggest that when you use this solution, you eliminate this year-end physical inventory count. You take your counts on a daily basis. You count the most important items throughout the year more than one time, and then the small items you can probably, or not expensive items, you can only focus one time during the entire year. Here's the main point of our automated inventory cycle count. It seamlessly integrates with the physical inventory in the count cart entry program. Simple implementation with a single screen setup. Everything that we're going to see now is you're performing a one single screen. Easy to do force count to reconcile any disputes. The system sends automatic email notification to the people who are assigned to that job that they need to count the items every day. It supports multiple warehouses and multiple companies, and you can have a different schedules by the warehouses. It helps you to manage your inventory life cycle from the day that you bring your inventory to your system, and to the day that you discontinue the item and you're not going to sell it anymore. And it also seamlessly integrates with ACS multi-bin warehouse automation from Scanco and the Scanco counts. So with that, I'm going to jump on the demo, and we're going to see the automated inventory cycle count. All right, so automated inventory cycle count program is located under the physical count. It's called CPS Inventory Cycle Count Entry Program. As I mentioned before, it integrates with the physical count entry and the count cart entry programs. It's a one single screen where you go in here, you select your warehouse, the data that comes here for all that warehouse. On the top section, what we have here are the filters, where you can filter down how you want to update the items as far as how many times you want to count. The middle section is where all the updating process is going to take place. You can assign the item, selecting one item at a time, or you can filter the data down, and you can update the data with the multiple items at the same time to the cycle counts. And the bottom portion here is going to show you, based on your schedule, how many items you have to count daily. Obviously, we have items that we want to count more than one time, and there are A categories items, and the B's and C's and D's maybe you want to count less often. You have an option, you can decide how many times you want to count. The first time that you bring in your screen for the warehouse, as I go to 001 warehouse for demoing purposes, as you can see, we have one field called yearly cycle count. The yearly cycle count of -1 shows that up here. This means that those are the items that you haven't categorized to any cycle yet. So that's how it's going to start. And then if you have already predefined schedule, then if you are bringing new items, they're all going to be categorized as -1 before you go and update them. I can easily click on the items, multiple items, by clicking on this checkbox and updating them to, let's say I would like to count this 3 times a year, and it automatically puts on the summary section that I have 3 items I'm going to count 3 times a year. Or I can click on the corner, on the top corner, and I can update all of this to, let's say, the rest of it to the 4 times a year. So this is how easy the updates are performed. You can easily come here and you can easily say, filter, that if I want to see the items that cost more than $1,000, and I can hit enter. So it will list all the items that are over $1,000. If I want to count them, let's say, more than 4 times a year, I can easily click on this and then go here and then update this to any times that I would like to update this. And this will be, let's say, I'm planning to count those items 8 times a year. And then I hit assign button. And as I click assign, it automatically figures out that there is a new yearly cycle count code, and it inserts into the summary showing how many times I have to count those 4 items that they're going to be counted 8 times. As you have noticed also on the bottom section, we are showing that total number of inventory records that are assigned to 001 warehouse. It says that there are 79 items, and based on this greater than $1,000 filter, I have only 4 lines. And as I click on each one of them, it tells me how many updates are going to take place if I click the assign button here. Or if I click on the corner, it will select everything for me, and it will tell me that the 4 items are going to be counted. Now, the next column I would like to highlight is the remaining count. The remaining count of 0 means that when you schedule this item to be counted, and it's going to be running every time, and you don't have any restrictions about this item. So if you have an item that you're planning to discontinue in a near future, and you don't want to go in here and update every time, you can set the remaining count 1 or 2 Then after 2 times that item ends up on the cycle count, then the system is going to stop counting that item, and it will move into the other items. We have another feature here called force count next time. This is a nice feature when people know that there is something wrong with the inventory item. Then and the time for that item to be counted, maybe it's a month from now, you can click on that feature, and as soon as you click on that option, next morning when it generates the count, it's going to send an email, and it's going to bring this item into that count for tomorrow count sheet. So it's a really helpful option where you would like to find out what's going on with the specific item because of the discrepancy that you noticed. A next option called hold. I can check the item on. I can put the item on hold. If there is any item that I would like to not count for a time being, for a month or so, like whatever that criteria is going to be, you can come and put that item on hold, and this way the items are not going to show up on the cycle count. So you can control this any ways you like to generate your cycle counts, and for the items that you decide which one is going to be on hold and which one will be the force count. So these are nice features when it comes down now on the cycle count process. You find the item that needs to be counted, but it's not the time, so you can click on that and generate the cycle counts. So if I go back to my 00 warehouse that I have already defined my counts over here, I could see that I have a little schedule here that shows me how many items. So for example, I've got 13 items that I'm going to count 2 times a year, and I got 20 items that I'm going to count 3 times a year. And as a result, when I go to manual generation process, it will create a physical inventory. It will generate the information, put into the physical inventory, and it will send an email as well. So here we can go ahead and see the scheduler for the warehouse 000. So when you click on the scheduler, this is a place where you schedule this task to run, let's say 2 in the morning automatically. It will create the physical inventories, and it will send you an email with the list of the items that you need to count. As an example of the email, here's the Excel file that we send it as a CSV file as an attachment to the email. It tells you what items you need to count, in which bin they are, since when you integrate with the multi-bin, and it tells you frozen counts, and then you go enter the information. But if you're using also Scanco physical inventory program, then this will be the notification that will come to you. Then you don't really need to do any data entry. You can use their handheld application and go count, and the data will go automatically to Sage 100 physical count entry program. We have an exception days for the holidays and for the vacations that you can enter that. And once you enter this information here, then the system is going to skip those days and will not generate any counts for you. You have a manual generation process if you want to generate that manually. Otherwise, you're not going to typically use this, but it's an option that you can click here and do the manual generation. On the option tab, on the option button, you have an option of activating and inactivating a warehouse cycle count by the warehouses. So, and you have an option of also saying set count quantity to be on-hand quantity. This is a helpful option when you would like, some companies would like their employees to focus only for the items that have discrepancies. Some companies don't want to show the frozen quantity at all, and they want the data entry person to enter the counts for all of the items that was set on that day. You have an option of selecting the items that are 0 on hand, if you would like the 0 on hand items to come and show up over here. Rollover YCC count from large to small. This is a really helpful option. Let's say that you have A category items are typically not that many as the B and C and D, obviously, and maybe within a month you complete counting all of your A category items, and it's going to be 3 months from now that I'm going to start counting the A categories items again. If we have that option selected, that means that I can maintain the warehouse load, and I can make sure that my warehouse people always count the same number of items. If I don't have this selected, after it's done counting with the A categories, then obviously you'll have less items to count. In our summary, we show that we have 6 items that we're going to be counting each day, and with this option, it will make sure that every day you have 6 items. So it will go pull more items from B and C and D to make sure you maintain the 6 items every morning that you need to count. The generation program, as I mentioned before, integrates with the physical count entry program, and also it integrates with the count cart entry program. It's an optional feature. You can select where do you like the information to be inserted. Here are the email notifications where you can set up the people to receive the emails, more than 1 people, and this is by the warehouse code. So in one warehouse you may have different people than on the others. And here are different options that you can select what to see when the email notification goes. So as soon as it goes and generates the count cart entry data, and it actually puts into the email and sends this information, and these columns could be controlled by the options over here. All right, well, this completes the presentation of CertiPro Solutions Automate Inventory Cycle Count process. With this, I'm going to hand it over to Ron to show you ACS multi-beam. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it. Great presentation and very informative. To just step back a little bit before I get into physical count, a little background on what multi-bin inventory is in Sage 100. I just wanted to show a couple things, and I'll get right at it into inventory. So here I'm looking at inventory maintenance, and here you can see where my inventory is in different bin locations. Typically, a business will have just one bin location, as you might know, where you might set up a whole bin location in a warehouse. Once you start getting to the point where your inventory is spread out to 2 or 3 bin locations, then having a multi-bin inventory system in your Sage 100 could really benefit you. There are some features about it I want to talk about here, and then I'll get right into the physical count. So here you can see some different bin locations, and then we have these location types and regions. As you can see here on the left-hand side, I can summarize how much inventory I have in different sections of my warehouse too. In red, you can see what we call inventory restrictions, and this is how we can sort of curve the way we want to handle our inventory. For example, in this case, in this first one, I'm restricting inventory for certain customers. This other one too. And this inventory is held in this quality bin location, as you might expect sometimes inventory be held there. We do a real good job keeping track of when goods were last received. That can help optimize rotating inventory so that you always have the oldest goods coming up first for not only picking for selling, but rotating to other locations for you, or when you issue inventory for, let's say, production, or just in other staging locations for shipment. And obviously, we see quantity on hand over here and what's reserved and allocated. So what I want to do is take you right now over to the setup of a bin location so we can get a little perspective of some of these options for location type, this region code, which is synonymous for zones in your warehouse, and restrictions of your inventory. I pulled up a single bin location. You can see it here up on the screen. If you were looking left-hand side, A10L, and you can see it's disabled for this particular customer. And over here on the right, I have my bin location set up, and I can view what inventory I have on hand in here. If I go over to the setup, I can see some of these options into play in the setup of a location. Now, I might add, when you start off with our software, you know, you can start off in a very plain fashion and kick off multi-bin warehouse management, and then often what happens over time, is users will get into some of these additional features. So I am taking a couple steps forward here rather than let's say the basic form. So here you can see the setup for a region code, and that's synonymous once again for zones of your warehouse. And we also do it for other things, for maybe sort of functions in your warehouse too. So you can see here I have production line 1, so that these are bin locations that might be for one of my production lines. But here you can see I have it broken down for different sections of my warehouse, like a cage or floor and so on. We assign that to a location. We can also set like the aisle, and then we have these print sort codes. And what that does is gives us the 100% way of you being able to pick through your warehouse. And I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. And then these are the location types. Location types are very useful because pick bin location tends to be those that inventory that's in the pickable area. It's not out of reach, and perhaps it's not your bulk stock that might be in your back, in the back of the inventory or your warehouse. So pick inventory is in your reachable area where you want your pickers to pick. Overflow might be that out of reach inventory on the top shelves or your back stock. And then we have other kinds. For example, staging is excellent for when you stage inventory for as you produce goods or receive goods and they need to go out elsewhere. Just a couple other things to note here is capacity types. We have the ability to know how full a location is, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. We do that in a few different ways. We can do it by the number of units in the location and by the package size in the bin location. We can use the package size using the volume field in item maintenance, and with our license plate package, you can track different sizes for pallets and so on. So back to one other point I wanted to make on these pick restrictions. Pick restrictions allow you to restrict inventory for good reasons. You know, maybe it's in quality control, maybe you just received the goods, maybe you just produced the goods and they're not ready to be released. So we give you the ability to set up these locations. I can segregate inventory for certain customers, and I can release it after a certain date. So now what I want to do is take you over to our dashboard and introduce you to one of the ways that we can replenish our inventory into different sections of our warehouse. For example, if I were to move inventory out of my receiving dock, I can select from PO receiving, select my warehouse, and it's multi-warehouse sensitive, and then I can hit calculate. And what it will do is it will look at my inventory in my receiving bin location and advise which inventory, where my inventory should go. There are settings in the system. It's very easy to do. We have options that you can set up that tend to give you the ability to set the way you want to put your goods. Maybe you want to put goods where you last receive it. Maybe you want to put goods in certain zones in your warehouse, certain aisles of your warehouse. Maybe you want to use the oldest goods, or where you want to put it where you last received it, but maybe not in the same bin location, maybe right next to it. Because like I mentioned earlier, we do a real good job on helping you age your inventory. And sometimes that's beneficial if you don't have lot serial inventory and you want help aging your inventory and getting the oldest goods out first. So here I got advisement on what to do, and it looked at the capacity location, and it did a real good job on saying pull goods from the receiving bin location and put it into these different locations and so on. You can see all that here. What we do is we provide a couple things. There's a log for certain things you might want to notate, and I might come back to that here in a second. We provide a couple pick sheets and put away sheets. This is a pick sheet. This is telling you, hey, I'm going to pick goods from my receiving dock and put it into these different bin locations. And this is a serialized item right here, and here's some other inventory coming across. Now this is real nice because you can use this now to put your goods away. We also produce a put away sheet, and this one is a little different perspective. All this is telling you is, hey, this is the optimum way of you going through your warehouse so that you can put your goods away in an orderly fashion. Now, if I could show you real quick here a little diagram of how that might work. Optimum way would be maybe you're going through one aisle, and rather than going up down one aisle and coming down the other side, if you can see that, you can make it so that the inventory is perfect, where you're putting goods as you're walking down the aisle, left and right hand side. As well as you can optimize it as through your different areas of your warehouse, whether it be just in the parts department, putting goods away in your back stock up here, over in the shipping department. You can always set up the perfect way that you want your staff to work in the warehouse. So so you can use those pick sheets and the put away sheet. And then another feature we provide on the dashboard is then to transfer the inventory. Obviously, if you have RF handhelds, what you want to do is scan the goods from where you're picking them, and then as you put the goods away, perhaps put a barcode right at that bin location and scan where you put those goods away. So in this example, I did a put away from receiving. I can do other functionalities in this software. I could do a primary bin location replenishment report. That's a fancy way of saying, look, I just want to replenish inventory that's designated as primary, and I have replenishment points of when to replenish those bin locations. And you can create your own type of replenishment or rotation of your inventory. We call those my transfers and standard transfers. And here I have an example of a save transfer. It's a save standard transfer, and you can have it in here as you're doing data input. It doesn't check quantity available or any of that business. You can set these up ahead of time. In this case, this is a replenishment of a production line, of rotating inventory, my standard transfer to rotate inventory for this section of warehouse. Another good example is maybe staging inventory into the floor, so you can do quick picks today for a lot of orders. What I could do is then set up a new transfer, and I can select, this is going to be my transfer. I can copy that standard transfer, so I can reuse that standard transfer any number of times. And this asks me here, do I want to transfer or pull over the quantity that's recommending to transfer, and I do. And now this is I'm creating a brand new transfer from a standard one. I can hit calculate, and what it will do is it will go through and figure out, based on the quantity available and the capacity of locations, what it can actually put in each individual bin location. I can review a log to see what kind of changes that it made. Right here, it said that for this one item, there was 25 earmarked to go, and it could only put 21 into the bin location because there was insufficient quantity available in the source bin location. So what's real nice now is I can produce a wave pick sheet that will help me put my goods, pick my goods, and it's in nice orderly fashion. Pick my goods. Now I can print a put away sheet if desired, or I could have just used that pick and put away sheet. But in this one here, this is in the order of the locations that I need to put the inventory away now. And then now I could go ahead and transfer the inventory. We give you a couple choices. The quick transfer, this is instant transfer, or I can put in transaction entry. And we like you to put in transaction entry when you're going through multiple warehouses. Obviously, if you're using RF handhelds, you could have used the pick sheets and the put away sheets to transfer your inventory. So I'll go ahead and transfer my inventory, get out of there. And I have a little bit of inventory here now, but you can see maybe here the locations here in these P locations. That's for the production line 1. Over here I have a summary of that. So as promised, I wanted to use that data now over in the physical count. And this is one of the advantages of physical count, is to count sections of your inventory. As Andy was talking about, you can do cycle counts rather than big counts, semi-annually and annually. And one of the advantages of having multi-bin inventory in your system is you can just do sections of your warehouse. So all those that know the physical count worksheet, I can select to sort it by bin location. I do want to print and freeze. And for this example, I do want to print the quantity on hand on my worksheet so that I can do a spot check on, rather than forcing a blind count in this case. And then down here, I'm going to select the option to default the quantity counted in the freeze. So what we can do is we can select ranges of bin locations if I chose to. I could have selected one bin location, and I could have done a spot check of that. When Andy and the CertiPro does the cycle count, they could freeze just certain sections of your warehouse too by the bin locations, and that would be in there also. We have a couple other features in our software. We can select goods based on when they were last counted. And what I want to do today is select that product line or production line that I froze earlier, or that I transferred inventory in earlier, right here. All right, so I have it sorted by bin location. I'm going to print, and I'm going to do a freeze. And then as it comes up here, you can see that I have a nice physical count worksheet. I can go into each one of these bin locations, review the counts that I'm represented on here. I can notate, and you know the rest from here. And then what's real nice then too is when you go in physical count data entry for this, I can choose to do data entry by real multi-bin, meaning that here this item is in now 2 different bin locations. In standard Sage 100, of course, that's just 1 bin location. I could have chose to do sorted this in any different way by item, for example. And then and as you know, this rest I can notate, I can make changes to my physical count. We all know about this part. And what's real nice then too is the variance register then reflects in a detailed fashion the variances by the different bin locations. So item, different bin locations, and here's different amount, and so on. So that's the full cycle of doing a physical count. What you can do is use our software to freeze sections of your warehouse. But what's real nice too is using the software, the cycle count software, to get emails daily on what to count. And then rest assured, then it's freezing the inventory there for you by bin location, and you're doing your counts by bin location and so on. So I really appreciate you coming today. And let me pass this off to the nice gentleman here, Devin. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ron. And yeah, physical count is a huge thing, especially toward this time of year when everybody is getting ready to do their annual physical counts and whatnot. So one of the main things we found with our customers is moving them over to cycle counts not only saves them a lot of money, but also saves them a ton of time when it comes to keeping up with what they have. And what I'm going to show is the process of doing the physical count from the handheld. If there's any way to make it fun, we make it fun by allowing us to scan all of those items to reconcile with the physical count entry. And now you can see here I have a copy or an instance of our demo server running that's connected to my installation of Scanco Warehouse. And here in the physical count entry, you can see this is the installation of what it would be stock. So I don't have an instance running with ACS, but you can imagine that those cycle count worksheets that are being printed, we'd be able to use those as a template for when we're going to perform the physical count using the barcode scanner rather than doing everything manually. Now, on the handheld device, for those of you who haven't had a chance to see any of Scanco's software before, our interface, we offer a full warehouse suite, but all we're going to talk about today is physical count, and then we're going to get into shipping in just a little while. But I'm going to show you the physical count module, and the operation for this is fairly simple. There's a few different ways to enter information to Scanco Warehouse, and you'll find that as you get to each step in the process, we have what's called a waterfall effect that will appear, and it only puts information on the screen that we need to know at any particular time. So it just really helps for the warehouse users to not get confused as to what entry is needed, what prompts need to be clicked in order to complete a particular transaction. Anytime we have a prompt like this, we can enter information with the on-screen keyboard, with the manual keyboard if you're running it on an Intermec type scanner, we can use a lookup feature which will show us all of the options that are available, and we can also use the barcode scanner as well. So I'm going to hit enter and select our central warehouse to the warehouse we would like to count. Now if I hit lookup at this time, you'll see that it's going to give us a list of all the items that are in the warehouse, and anything that's on this list can be sorted by description or item code, and you can also search and start entering numbers or letters in if you happen to be doing it more manually. So here I'll type in D, and you'll see when I do the lookup it acts as a search, and so it's going to show me all of the items in our ABC company under this warehouse that have this start with the D for the item code. So what I'll do is emulate a scanning environment, and you'll see that as I activate the scanning capability, that once we go through and have that sheet that Ron was showing, we can go to one of those bins and we can select an item that will be selected for physical count. So in that case, I'll just scan a sample item 6655. It's going to tell me the bin location that it is currently placed in, and now we'll be allowed to key in the quantity. So we can go ahead and accept 20 of this particular item. Now it's going to let me go to the next item. I'm going to scan, and now you'll see here we have a description of item, a picture as well, so it helps to just give an idea of what it is that they're scanning so they can see it, what the unit of measure is. Now another thing that is helpful in some circumstances is using what we call the scan each item entry. Now when I go through and scan the item, it is going to automatically increment to the next quantity of that particular item that we're scanning. So as you can see, I'm going through and scanning this item as they would say in retail space, doing a physical count for Target or something, we'll say, and as they go through each of the items, it's scan for scan. And once we disable the scan each feature, I can go back and review, and we can see exactly what we did during the session. So we know what items have been counted, and we can go back and either modify or go ahead and submit this into the physical count entry. Now simply when the count is completed, we would hit send, and it's going to submit these items to the server, and it will successfully submit these records. Now that's all for the collection side. The features now that would be highlighted would be everything you have on the other end that ACS would work with the multi-bin solution. But performing your physical count with the barcode scanner is very, very simple and takes out all of the manual entry of having to go through and write them down on a sheet of paper. So it just really helps to kind of streamline that process a little bit. Now, if you can think back to the flowchart we were talking about before, this is where the break in the flowchart is, because what I'm going to do now is show you how Scanco works together with StarShip to be able to give you the shipping entry information and the tracking numbers and a lot of other functionality that's built in with actually performing a shipment, because Scanco is concerned with the logistics of the warehouse and where the items are going and how they're being tracked with Sage 100, and then getting them out the door is a totally different story, and I'll let Caroline talk about that and how they automate that process. So when we go to shipping, we have a few different ways to enter here. We have shipping data entry or invoice data entry. In this case, we're going to use shipping data entry. I'm going to enter my batch number. Now I'm going to assign a shipper ID to this order. And now I'm going to pull up a sales order. And we're going to ship to this sales order based on the items that are here to be done. So we can select our box. Now this box level detail, as we go through, you're going to see that I'm going to pack 2 items in a few different ways. So that way you can see exactly how that package level detail is going to be picked up by StarShip later on down the process. Now when I go here and select the lookup, it's going to tell me what I have that has been shipped, what has not been shipped, and gives me just a view of what's going on so I know exactly what needs to be scanned from the user level. So I'm going to scan item 6655, and here it's going to ask me for the quantity, and for the first box I'm going to place a quantity of 2 inside, and then I'm going to scan my next item to place in here. I'm going to select a quantity of 1. And you'll see that it has a quantity shipped versus quantity ordered. Now, if you watch, when we go to the second box, you're going to see other option. You're going to see the progress of what we're doing. So if I go back to look up here, you're going to see on the handheld that we've shipped 2. We need to ship 2 of 6655, and a similar thing there down on the bottom with the drawer file. So I'll go back in again, and I'm going to just put 2 of 6655 into our second box. Now, as the warehouse user is packing, they're using the handheld device to tell Sage 100 exactly how they're doing it, so that way it dramatically reduces the errors and also creates a lot better efficiency to automate the process of getting all the information back into Sage. So now what I'm going to do is we've packed the boxes, and I'm going to send this to the server. And now it's successfully collected. It's going to appear in shipping data entry automatically, and then we're going to send it over to Caroline, and she's going to tell you exactly how we're going to get this order to the customer.
Cool. Thanks, Devin. So from a StarShip perspective, let me just bring our screen up here. Just going to ship this order out that Devin just packed up. So it was order number 2235. And you can scan this number in if you have a pick ticket that you're using, and you have the order number barcoded on there. You can just scan that in. I'm showing you actually an enhancement where we're using the order number to actually select that invoice document that was created as a result of doing the pick pack on the Scanco solution. So once I bring this this order/invoice up here, on the StarShip screen, you'll see on the left-hand side is just a preview of the header level information that we brought in. So it's going to give you how we translated the ship via to the carrier service. The billing type can also be translated sender as well as the recipient. And we do offer address validation in StarShip for Zip+4 as well as residential commercial, and that's what this little checkbox here says, that it's a valid address. Now, to bring your attention to the bottom of the screen here, you'll see that if I expand all these items out, these are the boxes and the items that Devin scanned using the handheld. It's coming in already in StarShip, pretty much just pre-packed at this point. So you're saving a lot of additional time defining the box level information in StarShip by using a combination of the Scanco StarShip solution. And if I drill into any one of these items here, you'll also notice that we're bringing in some item level information directly from your Sage 100 system. But there may be some information associated to these items that you are not storing in Sage. So for example, well, this one happens to be an LTL shipment here. Class is typically what's needed in order to generate a rate quote for you. And if you do have class information stored in the item level in Sage, we do have customized mapping functionality where you can just, from a drop-down perspective, tell StarShip which fields you want to grab from your Sage system and utilize for that class field. And you can easily run some value translations through the StarShip customized interface as well. So I'm just going to do a rate shop here, although I want to make note here that StarShip can automatically run a rate shop for you, and also it can utilize logic to determine the best way to ship it. And the logic that's going to use can be defined by you. So if you want to look at the least expensive way to get it there by a certain time, you can definitely do that inside of StarShip, and that would take this additional manual step out of running the rate shop and selecting something else. So in this case, StarShip translated Conway LTL from the ship via, and you'll notice Conway here is set at $116, and these are my actual contract rates. So StarShip can retrieve both the contract and list rates. We're going directly out to the carrier's websites to retrieve this information, eliminating the need for you guys to go out to the individual carrier's sites, enter that information manually, and try to figure it out on your own. So maybe in this instance I want to go UPS ground freight. because it's a little less expensive and it's still getting there on Monday. So I'm just going to select that. And you'll notice now that I'm switching into parcel mode because ground freight, although it's called ground freight, it's really a parcel carrier service, I should say. It's a little interesting. But anyways, in this instance, you'll see here that my pallet's gone, and now I'm really sending more of like a small package shipment. So StarShip does allow you to rate shop both parcel and LTL, which does give you the ability to see certain efficiencies or cost savings, maybe going 100-weight parcel versus LTL. Now, if I want to just go ahead and process this guy, StarShip will generate the barcoded shipping labels, and then it'll also update the Sage system in real time with tracking information and freight costs. And the freight charges can also include customizable handling feeds that you define inside of StarShip. So here's my first box that has the 2 of these filing cabinets and, or I'm sorry, 1 of the filing cabinets and then 2 of the printer stands. And again, this is the information that was defined using the Scanco handheld. So we're utilizing all that information that was scanned in to help you on the shipping side, creating this pack list shipping label combination here. Now, usually these labels, documents are going to automatically go out to the printer, so they're not going to be previewed. I'm just showing it this way for your benefit. And once we've produced the barcoded shipping labels, at that point, all the information is getting updated. So customer service has the tracking information. Invoices are updated with freight charges and tracking information. But the other thing that StarShip can do is send email notifications in real time. So let's take a look, and I'm going to refresh this. Look at the email that was generated. In StarShip, you do have the ability to define templates, so you can make your email have the look and feel that matches maybe your particular, whatever you're doing for your marketing, your logo, links back to your website. You can create different templates and define conditions and parameters around when those templates are used. So if you have different companies inside of Sage and you want those companies, when you're shipping against them, to have maybe a different logo associated to them, you can do that from here. So here was the order that we processed. Here is order number 235. This is the email that was generated as a result. So you can add variable fields inside of this email, and the Sage fields that are associated. So this can really help your customer, make a reference to their PO number and look at the shipment that's associated to it. And again, StarShip is going to use that packaging information that was defined on the handheld to then, add that into this email notification going out to your customer, so that your customer can have a really good view of, the fact that you shipped all the items and that they're getting, a couple of the items in one box and the other ones in the other boxes. And that's all I had on the StarShip side, so I'm going to send it back to Adrian.
Thank you, Caroline and team. It's a great presentation. It's nice to see how everything works together. So I'm going to go ahead and show my screen with the flow chart again, so we can just run through that. Let's see here. So can everybody see my screen? Let me click on this button. Oh, let me go back. There we go. So if we could just run down, everybody, real quick, all the speakers, if we could run down your, just summarize your place in this workflow, that would be great.
Hello, this is Andy. Yeah, we've seen the automated inventory cycle count, which addresses the pain of the long-lasting physical inventory, and the 4 first boxes kind of addresses our process that eliminates the year-end physical inventory count. And most importantly, the cycle count, if you find the error and you correct it on time, then it's a good way of keeping your accurate inventory and increasing your revenue.
This is Ron Chuff. Thank you. You saw how that I was able to just select a section of my warehouse or the production line to count just that inventory. I didn't have the accounting system didn't get in my way of having to select all my inventory in the system. I was able to select just ranges of bin locations. In my case, a zone of my warehouse, freeze that, count that inventory, and then be able to reflect the variances by bin location on the variance register.
And so the Scanco piece, as you can see these steps that are here, what we've done is more or less gotten rid of in the shipping process this paper pick ticket we can still utilize, or we can just use the on-screen instructions as to what the user needs to go and get from the warehouse. These items will be picked and packaged for shipment, but the quantities written down, the paper sales order given to data entry personnel, and manually entering the sales order and keying in the quantities, those last, let's say, 4 or 5 steps are eliminated completely because we're using the handheld to be able to scan that information and then put it directly into Sage 100.
And then on the shipping side, the first 3 boxes there were manually entering information into the various carrier systems. So that's all eliminated as we just scan or enter the order number in StarShip. We're pulling all that information directly from your Sage 100 order, which is not only helping with efficiency, but it's also helping with accuracy, grabbing that appropriate ship to, using the ship via that was on the order and translating that. Being able to automatically compare costs if you want to, or doing a rate shop like I did during my demo, and selecting the carrier service. And then once it's processed, StarShip is then updating Sage in real time. It's creating the barcoded shipping labels. It's updating tracking information as well as calculating the freight charge for you using the customizable freight rules feature. So all of that manual entry that is inefficient as well as can be inaccurate with especially 13, 16 digit long tracking numbers gets all eliminated with StarShip as we'll enter it, do that all automated for you.
Thank you, Caroline. So I have launched a poll here. I just would like to ask the audience real quick if you could take a moment to answer this poll while we're announcing the questions. And if you do have any questions, please go ahead and indicate your question by clicking on that question mark button next to your name on the webinar pane, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. So we do have a question here. Thank you, Lou. How will this help with doing a cycle count while shipping receiving?
Yeah, hi, this is Andy. What's going to happen is at 2 a.m. your cycle count is going to generate in the morning, and it's going to send an email to the designated people who are responsible for counting. And the goal is that you count small amount of items, not 100 items a day, maybe 10, 20 items a day, so they can quickly go count those items and enter it into the system, especially if they're using Scanco warehouse automation. That will streamline the process a lot. Maybe in the morning from 8 to 8:30 they've done the counting, and then the picking process starts happening. And as you record the discrepancies, then you can go ahead and do all your regular processes and update the variance at the end of the day or right at that time.
If I can append what Andy was saying too in relation to Sage 100 and your ability to freeze inventory, as you might know, you can freeze your inventory and conduct your shipping and receiving as you normally do. And when Sage 100 updates the counts or the variance counts, you only count. It will only take the difference between what was originally frozen and the new updated value.
Thank you, Ron.
And thank you, Fred, for your question. Thank you for your time, everybody. Fred says, can we add special identification on multi-bin for the same item?
I'm going to assume that, and if you want to clarify, and I apologize for not getting this right if I did, is specific identification of an item. You can have lot serial goods specifically identified within a bin location, if that's what you mean, in any number of bin locations. You can also have license plates associated to one or group of items, also to specifically identify an item or group of items. I apologize if I didn't answer it properly there.
And Ron, Fred did clarify a little bit here. He says, and do allocation based on condition of customer. So can we add special identification on multi-bin for the same item and do allocation based on condition of customer? That's the full question. Ron?
Yeah, I was trying to get that, and I apologize for not getting this right here too. So if the inventory is allocated for a customer and then it was reserved away, is that the question? You can reserve inventory for customers, and when you do a count in the system, it's looking at the total quantity on hand, not what's available. What the system does too is ensure that that when you update your variance register, you're not going to be less. You're not going to try to update anything less than what's net available. So you're not, at least it will warn you. You can't override it, but it will prompt you to at least so that you don't go less than what's allocated on your in your system.
And I just wanted to alert the audience that there is another poll question up. Are you interested in learning more about multi-bin advanced warehouse management software? So that was Ron's portion of the demonstration. So if we could just take a moment to answer that question, that would be great. And then Brent, thank you for your question. If something is allocated to an order, you can't inventory it. Will it skip that location for that day?
I didn't know if that was for me, and Andy may answer. He'll probably say no, he won't stop it. We do allow you to count inventory that is allocated and reserved for sales orders. Once again, we validate, make sure that the count is not less than what's allocated and reserved on orders, and allocated on invoices too.
That's correct, Ron. Thank you for answering that.
And I have another poll up while I'm announcing the rest of the questions. Are you interested in learning more about automated count, pick, and pack software? That was Devin's portion of the webinar talking about Scanco. So if we could take a moment to answer that question, that'd be great. And Charles, thank you for your question. Does the physical count email notification require Sage Alerts, aka Knowledge Sync?
It doesn't require Knowledge Sync for emails. We're using the standard Sage 100 email process that you can set up in the email, and then sends out an email using the Sage 100 emailing process. When you go schedule a task, it actually creates a Windows task inside the Windows module, which accesses Sage 100 database and runs our program to generate and sends email. So the answer is no, you don't need that. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. I'm going to launch our last poll here. Are you interested in learning more about Caroline Solution, the automated shipping portion of the call today? And Fred, yes, we will get back in touch with you. I'm going to send out an email complete with the recording and all the presenters' contact information. It's going to come from me, Adrienne at erpvar.com. So be on the lookout for that, and all the presenters' contact information will be there. The presenters will also have a member of their team, or if not themselves, get back to everybody that was on the webinar today just to make sure we've answered all your questions. And we do have one more question. How often do you all work together?
Every day.
So as I understand it, it's very common for you all to integrate your solutions and talk to the same customers about comprehensive warehouse management systems?
Definitely. This is Caroline from V Technologies, and many times we may run into one of the solutions or multiple solutions at a particular customer site. And in some cases, they may start with like the StarShip solution, and then add phases of the implementation on and automate the process even more. So we work very closely with Scanco and ACS all the time.
Thank you, everybody. I do see that we are a little bit over the hour. Thank you, everybody, for spending your time with us. I know an hour of your busy day is hard to come by. We sure appreciate you sharing it with us, and we hope that it was very informative for you. As I said, we will be back in touch with you via email for sure later on today. And each of the presenting companies should be back in touch with you shortly. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we will get your questions answered. And I just wanted to prompt the presenters, please, if you have any further comments to add, please go ahead.
I think that's all over here.
Yeah, thank you for coming today. Your time is valuable. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Over and out. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, Adrian.
Bye, Adrian.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.